Alt season is now finally showing signs of life. And one of the biggest things that we have right now in front of us, waiting for us, is the FOMC meeting, which is going to be on the 17th. And this is going to be one of the biggest events to really watch for because, again, this could lead to the entire market going absolutely insane. And with everything that we have in front of us, it seems as though phase 3 of the cycle could soon be starting, which is the altcoin phase of the cycle. We already saw Bitcoin go crazy. Ethereum slightly broke its all-time highs. We're still waiting for a major close on Ethereum for that to really be confirmed, which if we go all the way back to January of 2021, that's when alt season officially began. So we're definitely watching altcoins right now. And in this video, I want to talk about 5 altcoins to buy before the FOMC meeting. Now, just taking a quick look at a few things, let's address the altcoin season index because the altcoin season index is at 68 out of 100. This is very important to focus on considering the fact that this is showing us the strength and the momentum around altcoins against Bitcoin and even against Ethereum. This has started to really kind of rise recently. Yesterday it was at 72, right now it's around 68. The high in terms of going all the way back to like December of 2024 was around 87. I do believe that this is going to start to have another big spike. The altcoin season itself, or the altcoin market itself, sorry, is around like $1.8 trillion, or at least it was recently. Now it's a little bit lower than that. This chart is a little bit off when it comes to, just kind of analyzing the altcoin market. However, we've been starting to see a lot of great growth around altcoins themselves and really just watching this market become much larger than, even 2021 all-time highs. It really kind of shows you where we're at right now in the cycle. The adoption, the regulatory moves happening to really kind of approve and give the green light to some of these altcoins to get adopted and utilized at scale, that's happening. So, we're starting to see the entire market dynamic change, and we are definitely 100% focused on altcoins, especially at a time where Bitcoin dominance continues to drop. We're watching this closely because, again, if we go all the way back to 2021, we're starting to see this thing kind of fall off a cliff. Now, again, we're kind of comparing this back here to 2020 into 2021. I would argue that we have yet to really see that big steep crash on a Bitcoin dominance. And I know that that sounds crazy because we're at 57.72%. However, the largest moves of alt season really don't start until we see Bitcoin dominance lose about roughly like 50% or major support. That major support, I'm really kind of looking at this like 55% to almost like 57% level. If we could lose these two levels on this chart, I do think that that will be the big signal. But also, we're really watching others' dominance, which this is the altcoin market outside of the top 10, to see if this thing can really break out, which if we're thinking about what the Fed is going to do, they are hinting at rate cuts happening on the 17th. If we see that, I do think that this chart will start to erupt to the upside because liquidity is going to flow from Bitcoin and even Ethereum into altcoins, leading to phase 3 really showing its momentum, right? Because again, that will be altcoins going on a crazy tear. And if we're thinking about the top 10, right, that's a massive amount of money to just get into the top 10 alone. Top 10 ADA, $32+ billion. This is the altcoin market outside of the top 10. If we start to see dominance really rise on those altcoins outside of the top 10, that means that a lot of that money from the top 10 is going to trickle down. So this will be a huge moment for altcoins that have kind of been in the shadows. Now, if we're thinking about the Fed and what they're going to be doing on the 17th, we know that DCENT did say that, the Federal Reserve should cut interest rates by 50 basis points. We don't know if that's going to be the case. I do kind of agree with JP Morgan. They're expecting a 25 BPS cut. I think that that is more in line with what the Fed will probably do. Now, the question here is, do we just get a rate cut in September, or do we get one in September, October, and December? I do believe that we do. We're about 3 days out, so 72 hours away. And September 17th is a 100% chance, October 29th is a 100% chance, and also December 10th is a 100% chance. So it kind of feels as if the entire environment right now around crypto is very bullish. And during this time, I am 100% committed and focused on altcoins. So if we're thinking about that, what altcoins am I looking at? Well, tokenization is the biggest thing right now in crypto. Outside of stablecoins, which by the way, we'll talk about here shortly, tokenization is like the biggest thing right now hitting this space. Now, the difference here is I'm looking at tokenization platforms instead of just tokenization networks, because again, I do have two charts open up, which is, this and also networks. However, I'm mainly focused on platforms because platforms are like the biggest driver of tokenized value on chain. $16.39 billion currently tied back to tokenization platforms. And you already saw Ondo, right? Ondo is one of the largest platforms that we have access to in terms of buying, a coin tied back to this network. 105 RWAs on chain. They just crossed $1.6 billion recently. We've been starting to see a massive inflow of RWA assets on their platform. This is because of their Ondo Global Markets launch, which includes 103 stocks. But just looking at the total value here on chain, up 20+% in the last 30 days. Holders up almost 11%. Monthly transfer volume over $470+ million, up 725% in the last 30 days. And monthly active addresses up 93% as well. Ondo is a absolute giant in this space that I think everyone should be locked in on. And it's crazy because this is an altcoin that has a fully diluted value of 10.49 billion. So you might say, all right, well, it's not really that undervalued, right? Well, the market cap for it is 3.31 billion. And this is one of those projects with all of the connections, with all of the fundamentals tied back to Ondo. This is one of those projects that I could easily see being worth $100 billion. I would not be surprised at all if Ondo skyrocketed into the top 10 and hit like $50 to $100 billion by the end of the cycle. Because again, just everything that we see around Ondo is extremely bullish. And even if we go to the news tab, right, we could see all of the buzz. Because they just added a massive platform to their list with 103 assets. That's where if you go to like stocks on rwa.xyz, this is up 61% in the last 30 days. And that's because of Ondo. Ondo is the largest player here. This value is up over 291,000. Obviously, that's not like a crazy percentage from like where it was. No, this is just because it went from 0 to $183+ million since the launch. But Ondo has been absolutely killing it. They've been killing it with these tokenized stocks. And I do think that they're on their way to becoming the #1 platform here above Securitize. And again, they've just been very successful with everything that they've been doing, which tells me that this thing will have a massive run up this cycle. And already the chart looks very good. Higher lows, starting to see some higher highs. So yeah, I definitely think that Ondo is really kind of primed for major adoption and major growth. Now, beyond that, next up, going back to those platforms, what's the next one on this list that we can invest into? Well, it's Centrifuge. They have $1.1 billion tied to them, up about 10% in the last 30 days. Again, holders not really that crazy. Monthly transfer volume down about 55%. However, the thing about Centrifuge is that they have $1.1 billion tied to them. And what's crazy about this is Centrifuge only has a market cap, fully diluted value, almost $200 million. I mean, if we're thinking about this project, it's down 16% in the last year, all-time chart down 59% from its all-time high back in October of 2021. We're down 88.5% roughly. $2.58 was the all-time high. I think that this is one of those projects that is severely overlooked as well. Again, we already know the numbers here. Just going off of the total value on Centrifuge compared to its market cap tells me that this thing is undervalued. And in terms of the chart, yeah, we recently hit an all-time low back in April. This is where the market completely sold off. Then we created a higher low going into the end of June, and we just created a higher high going off of the May highs. Now I'm watching for this thing to take out those highs going all the way back to December around roughly like 50 cents. And if we can manage to break over that 50-cent level, I do think that we easily target the highs going back to March around $1 and almost like 15, which will also be on its way back to the all-time highs of 2021. And Centrifuge definitely has the potential to hit a new all-time high. They've been killing the game. They've been growing. And again, in terms of their platform, I mean, guys, this thing has been in an upward swing over the last couple weeks. So I'm definitely focused on Centrifuge as well. I do think that this is a, RWA gem that's overlooked and also undervalued. Next up, no longer an RWA focused video, Axelar. So Axelar, if you have been watching some of my recent Axel videos, then you already know that I do think that this thing is extremely undervalued as well. We recently hit all-time lows going all the way back here to April as well. Now, since then, if we look at the 1 year, we've been kind of just chopping and ranging around here. We've been consolidating, if you will. We're down 38% on the last 1 year. We're down 87+% from the all-time highs. And looking at the all-time chart, I mean, guys, this thing is hovering right around those lows going all the way back to like the end of 2023. These are the types of projects that I think everyone should be looking into leading into alt season because they're boring. They haven't really moved too much, which tells us that when this thing does start to pop out, guys, it's going to go crazy because it hasn't really pumped up at all. I mean, even going back to, roughly December of 2024, yeah, we hit $1.14 or so or around it, but we never even challenged the highs going back to like February into March of 2024. This is one of those very strong gems. We look at the last 365-day statistics of their Axelar scan. There's been $2.6 billion moved over their platform. The GMP contracts over 687. TVL also, by the way, 1.16 billion total value locked. We could see the EVM 1.01 billion, which, by the way, yes, the EVM side of Axelar is very bullish. We already know that XRP is locked in with the EVM sidechain. That's because of Axelar. All of the platforms, all of the networks that they have tied back to Axelar is extremely significant, over 80 plus blockchains. And again, total value locked 1.16 billion compared to this fully diluted value of like $400 million. It's crazy how undervalued some of these projects are just going off of, the stats. But also when we look at the total value locked, here we have a breakdown of it. So currently the Axelar's total value locked stands at approximately 1.15 billion, positioning among the elite blockchains with TVL exceeding $1 billion. The TVL currently surpasses that of several prominent chains, including Aptos, C, and Optimism, and is approaching the levels of Linea and Polygon. The all-time high TVL recorded for Axelar is 1.298 billion, which means the current figure is about 11% below its peak. 81.4% of Axelar's TVL is attributed to the interchain token service assets, with the remaining portion comprising of non-ITS assets. In 2025, Axelar ITS infrastructure has supported significant projects such as XRP Ledger Foundation, driving its growth. With ongoing collaborations and increasing adoption by major projects, Axelar's TVL is projected to surpass $2 billion by the end of this year, reflecting strong market confidence in its interoperability solutions. What's your prediction for Axelar's TVL by the end of the year? And again, yeah, if we're thinking about this, yeah, it is projected to reach over $2+ billion at a time where Axelar is still so overlooked, still underappreciated, at a time where the TVL is over $1+ billion, but the fully diluted value of Axel is still sub $400 million. It's insane to me that this thing is still undervalued like this. It won't last forever. And again, with altcoins starting to show signs of life, and alt season starting to really kind of show up, I do think that some of these projects like Axel are no longer going to be boring. And next up, Telcoin. So Telcoin has been performing pretty well, especially over the last year. We're still up over 200+% on Telcoin. However, I do think that this is one of those top tier projects. Right now we're in the top 211, right? I think that this thing could easily, hit the top 50, maybe even the top 30, because Telcoin is one of those projects that a lot of people have yet to really kind of discover, in my opinion. The supply is fully out there. Like 91 billion Tel is already out there, which means only 9 billion can get released. So most of the supply is already out there. Telcoin has been making such significant traction over the last couple months and even the last couple years. Recently, we know back in July, Genius Act got signed into law. This is around stablecoins. Paul Nooner, the Telcoin founder and CEO, did put out a post regarding, what they're doing with stablecoins, but also putting a spotlight on the fact that they're excited to open Telcoin Digital Asset Bank, which, by the way, if you guys do know, yes, they're working on the Telcoin Digital Asset Bank. That's going to be a big deal. If we do get that open soon, that will be a huge catalyst for Telcoin, but also on top of the Genius Act, right? Stablecoins are one of the biggest things in this space. I said in the beginning of this video that I will be talking about stablecoins, and the reason why I'm talking about stablecoins is because stablecoins are a huge part of the space now, especially with legislation behind stablecoins. This is a market poised for significant growth and significant adoption. And what Telcoin is doing is they recently launched digital money, which is, stablecoins tied into their Telcoin wallet app, which anyone that has a mobile phone could dial into. Here we have building the Internet of Money for daily mobile usage over EVM Layer 1 blockchain secured by mobile operators worldwide. Now, within this, we can see all of the stablecoins that are tied to this, right? These are all the ones currently available. You have a little bit of an insight onto what the application also looks like on the left side there. Then the Telcoin wallet enables money transfers to 20 plus countries and over 30 leading e-wallets worldwide. You can see all of them here. And then also digital cash coming soon, which is the EUSD, EURO, ECHF, EDKK, ESEK, EHUF, EISK, the ENOK, and then also the EZ or CZK. And again, when we're thinking about all of this combined with the digital asset bank charter that they do have in place, I mean, guys, Telcoin is so overlooked at this point, and I do think that this is one of those projects that will easily rival its 2021 all-time highs, which, if we're thinking about that, that's almost 6.5 cents. We're at roughly half a cent right now. The upside potential on Telcoin is extremely significant in my opinion. I think that we could easily, from where we're currently trading at 20x, well over 10 plus cents, I think that this is a project that almost everyone will want to be looking into at this point as we do start to see the market really heat up. So focus on this project, do a little bit of research, and I'm telling you guys, you will appreciate what Telcoin has been doing over the last couple of years. They have not been silent. They've been working. They've been, really building out some solid stuff. So yeah, definitely look into this project if you haven't already. And also, by the way, remember that they are a part of the GSMA. And the GSMA recently put out a white paper exploring how stablecoin arrangements could be introduced within the telecommunications market. And it's through projects like Telcoin that did get spotlighted by the GSMA. And if you guys don't know who the GSMA is, they are one of the largest players around the mobile connectivity side of the market. And I'm not just talking about crypto. No, I'm talking about the real world, right? Mobile phones. This is like one of the biggest connectors of all mobile devices. And even if we look at the stats here, 5.8 billion unique mobile subscribers, 71% penetration rate, will grow to 6.5 billion by 2030, $6.5 trillion added to the global economy by mobile technologies and services in 2024, $11 trillion boosted to the global economy by 2030, driven by mobile technologies as well. And again, with the GSMA on board with Telcoin, they are really accelerating the adoption of these new technologies. Even if we go over to Telcoin, Telcoin was the first telecom-focused cryptocurrency distributed in a partnership with GSMA network operators to mobile subscribers globally. So, this was one of the first ones, and this was to bank the unbanked that had mobile phones, but, were just completely underbanked and underserved. So, through this and with everything that Telcoin has been doing, they're still focused on this goal and they're still focused on this vision. So Telcoin is definitely one of those projects that, in my opinion, are it's just extremely undervalued. It's overlooked. I don't think that there's enough coverage of Telcoin, and I just think that this is going to be a huge winner this cycle. And then last but not least, we have Plume. So Plume also got wiped out recently in the market, and also going into the end of August and the beginning of September, this thing was pretty flat, right around those all-time lows. Now we started to jump, right? We were trading at around roughly like 7-8 cents or so. We're now back to like 13 plus cents. We're starting to break over some of these highs going back to, July. But again, on the 1 year, we're still down about almost 20%. On the all-time chart, we're still down about like 20% as well, because if we're looking at this, this is, yes, a fresh launch. However, you know, the supply and the market cap for Plume is telling me that this thing could be a very good gem. But that's not the only reason why, right? It's also the fact that when we look at the top networks around tokenization, Plume is number 13. They have 170, almost $3 million tied to them, and 144 tokenized assets on chain. We could see the overall chart here. Recently, this thing was down, right? We were down to about roughly like 152 million. Then we started to spike significantly. If we're looking at outside of just RWA value, look at the RWA holders here. Over 200,000 plus, almost up 8% in the last 30 days. Stablecoin market cap up about 1%, nothing too crazy there. Stablecoin holders up 5+%, 145,000. Again, this is a network that has over 180 plus projects tied to it. They are, you know, purpose built for RWA Fi as well. And I just think that, you know, if we're really kind of looking at some of these undervalued and overlooked projects, I think that Plume is definitely up there. I think it's up there because of how, you know, significant they have been around RWA tokenization, especially since it is a fresher launch. The chart has been kind of killed off because of that, right? We had that big spike back in March of this year. We hit about like 25 cents. Then we completely sold off. I've been talking about this project here and there on the channel, but also even in the Discord, because again, I just think that this is a very overlooked project, especially a project that's on major exchanges like Binance, Bybit, BitGet. So the access to this is there, right? On top of the fact that we already have the stats in front of us, right? They are growing, they are expanding. The RWA value on chain is starting to grow as well. I think that this is going to be a very solid gem. And again, currently this thing is at number 153 in terms of like the top 200. And I just think that this could easily hit like the top 50 as well, top 30. You know, I think that, you know, most of these projects are just so overlooked, so undervalued, and most of their charts are pretty boring still. I understand that this thing is up in the last day like 2+%, last 7 days up 55%, last month it's up about 35%. If it does have a pullback, hey, utilize that as an opportunity. You don't have to, you know, dive on into just Plume. I just think that the market opportunity for Plume is there, and I think that the upside potential is also there for Plume as well. And yeah, that's 5 altcoins that I think are just going to be pretty solid gainers here in the coming weeks, especially considering the fact that most of them are just so overlooked. They're flat on, you know, the charts. I know that some of them have pumped up, but you know, they're just consolidating. A lot of these charts are just consolidating while the altcoin market just cooks and cooks and crooks. You know, we're just kind of brewing here, right? We're just brewing here. And, you know, while we're just cooking, I do think that, you know, if we get the rate cut on the 17th, the market's just going to heat up. It's going to heat up, and I don't think that Bitcoin's going to be the focus. I think that it's going to be the altcoin market when we start to see the market really heat up again. You know, Ethereum already, you know, it's tapping a new all-time high. Bitcoin already has really kind of done a great overall move this cycle. I think the focus is on altcoins at this point. And I think that a lot of people that are jumping into crypto now are also going to be focused on altcoins. They're not going to be focused on Bitcoin or Ethereum. They're going to be tapping into the altcoin market. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because I'm free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.